Alright, I'm making this video just to be 100% definitive about something. Um, uh, so I don't think, it might not be clear to everyone, but the solar industry, from what I understand and from what I've been a part of, is always looking in the best interests of the customers. And I think it's kind of a positive, unexpected thing that, maybe heightens your appreciation of things that defies maybe some notions of corruption in like human intent. Sure, there is people who are really profitable and looking for profit motive in the solar industry and stuff like that, but I don't think it's ever at the expense of giving customers a fair deal. So, from what I've encountered, I'm going to make some definitive statements and say 100% of the time, at the very least, in the situations I've been in, again, I didn't see the agreement or the contracts for NRG or Singevity, but with Trinity Solar, the PPA that I was offering, or with SolarCity slash Tesla Energy, it's 100% of the time a good idea to do this if you qualify. Um, so, and I want to go into detail more, but um, the only reason why, so one of my last kind of issues with Tesla or SourceCity's offering is their refund policy. But once you mathematically break it down, just like everything else, it turns out to be a huge net benefit for customers. So this is kind of a small segue, but the refund policy is that you get back 85% of the energy that it didn't produce. Other companies many times don't even have a refund policy for production for owning a solar system, such as Trinity Solar, which is perfectly fine. But in this case, so if you were to produce 90,000 kilowatt hours and the expectation is 100,000 kilowatt hours, they'd refund you over the life of the system. You'd get at the very least a refund of 8,500 kilowatt hours for a net total of 98,500 kilowatt hours of value in the solar system, where you were guaranteed 100,000 or you were expected 100,000. Um, so I'll tell you what the kicker in all of that is. But first, I just want to say that it would actually be more than that. So you'd actually get more than 98,500 even if you underproduced at 90,000 because they check it at 24-month interval cycles. So if you overproduce, it rolls over to the following 2-year period. So actually, even if you underproduced by that amount, most likely you'd have had some rollover credits that would have compensated for some of that deficit. So at the very worst, you'd be at 98,500 if you underproduced every 2-year cycle. Um, the kicker is that if you overproduce and produce 110,000 kilowatt hours over that 20-year period, you keep that 10,000 kilowatt hours for free. And yes, for free. So free is a bad word because it's bad in the context of saying if you pay for the solar system, you're getting free electricity, because it's not technically free electricity because you paid for it because you bought the solar system, but the solar system provided you with electricity. So your net cost of energy went down. But in this case, if you overproduce, you keep the energy for free because it's energy you didn't pay for, but it overproduced more than expected. So, and I can say in the net scheme of things, the expectation is that you will produce more than you were expected to. Um, I'd say that's probably a little bit of an inaccurate statement, but because they're going to try to build a system that's going to produce exactly what they say it is, based on degradation, based on shading, based on azimuth, based on pitch, and you know, I don't think Tesla. I can definitively say this about this particular company. I don't think that they would be in the business of shortchanging people 10,000 kilowatt hours or this amount at the stake of their reputation and brand, which also has ventures in SpaceX, building rockets, Tesla cars, building batteries, and just a sustainable energy vision. I think the science behind what they're doing is to give you the exact amount. And you can't give someone 100% refund policy if they don't reach expected amount on 2-year periods. They check it every 2 years. And you can't then say you get to keep more for free, because then what's happening is you're only refunding when they're underproducing, and you're letting someone keep all the extra electricity for free. So this whole mathematical equation is pretty much suggesting that in the end, if you take all the customer pool, most likely what will happen is customers will get, on average, more than they expected to get out of the solar system when it comes to value. But you created a policy that allows them to keep the extra energy they produce for free, and if they underproduce, you refund them, because it's in 2-year cycles. So essentially the policy is that every 2-year cycle, you keep any extra energy you produce for in your account surplus, and it rolls over to the following 2 years to absorb any deficit you may have in the future. The reason it's a good policy is because your only alternative would be to say, we'll charge you for any energy you overproduce, and we'll refund you any energy you underproduce at a 1-to-1 ratio. So those are the only alternatives, is if you're going to get out of the science of things, to just say, well, we have to go both ways in that case, because this is what the cost of the system is. So you can either have the 1-to-1 ratio, or you can have a situation where most likely you're going to benefit more than you expected to. And essentially speaking, the end goal is simply just to give you what was expected, but to do it in the best means possible. So that means it's saying, if you overproduce, you'll keep it. If you underproduce, we'll refund you at 85%. So 85, refunding that amount at a rate of 85% of its value. Again, that was a huge segue, but the point I'm making is, the bigger point is that all these companies, in terms of things they've offered, like Trinity Solar, a positive thing they offered, and SolarCity does this as well, is offering to add or build towards the infrastructure of being able to sustain. So, like, again, I haven't exactly confirmed this with SolarCity Tesla, because I haven't seen it put in practice, but it may happen with my house. So the point is that I have old rafters in my attic, and it's maybe not enough to, it might be enough to pass permitting to install solar on it, but SolarCity Tesla may offer to add support to my roof in order to rebolster it, so that it's better suited for installing solar modules on it. I know Trinity Solar did this as well. They also did stuff like for free, and I've heard NRG did this too, to upgrade electric panels to the necessary number of amps needed to install a solar system. So if it was under the necessary amps needed, they'd install a new main panel and upgrade the electrical system in the house in order to make it viable for solar. So they do sometimes offer, I know Trinity Solar, one of the managers said that they had done that for him because he had a hip roof. And I've heard this from one of the site surveyors at SolarCity and Tesla Energy. And I know that people are very detailed and on point when it comes to what they're saying from the company because the company is really careful about what kind of information it distributes in terms of where your resources are coming from. So you can't really technically, you're not supposed to bring in outside material to convey positive things about solar energy because the company wants to specifically focus on its own material. So when it says that the electric rates have nationally increased 4.5% per year since the year 2000, I'm pretty sure that's accurate because they're sourcing it from, I forgot what the exact source was, but it was like the Energy Information Census Bureau. And it says that nationally the electric rates have gone up 67.5% on a national average, 4.5% per year since 2000. And if this is something they're presenting to every single customer, every single family, probably over 1 million households they've presented this information to, I'm pretty sure they've checked with their lawyers and their staff and the people who acquire this information about making sure it's legitimate and accurate if they're going to promote that this is accurate and true information. So, people can doubt and say, well, I don't think that's accurate or it seems exaggerated. Well, if you look at gas pump prices, it's more visible. But in the state of Massachusetts, the Attorney General, Maura Healey, has said that electric rates have doubled since 1990, and most of that increase has come since 2004. So yes, very legitimate sources. And if you're not going to trust sources such as what's being resourced, the government has no reason to go out and say that rates have increased more than expected, because they're the ones approving any rate hike from the utility companies. So they're also obviously the ones also approving solar energy law. So any type of law that benefits when it comes to renewable energy credits, or federal incentives or state incentives. So that's also true. But what I can say internally speaking is that on the background in the meetings and the people involved in these companies, there's never any kind of backdoor discussions from any level of people where people aren't sincerely defending kind of the customers with respect to the idea that installing solar energy is going to benefit them. No one's ever in any way disputed that internally. And just looking at the state laws, the federal laws, and the agreements, I mean, it's not even a question really. I mean, the fact that I'm addressing it, but I'm just saying that if there was any people out there who still think they're somehow getting scammed somehow, I'm a huge skeptic. So when I first went to NRG, I thought maybe this is all kind of a sham. Maybe you break even at best. But literally speaking, if you just do the math, I mean, I've known this for a long time now. So like going back on this almost is delegitimizing something. I can say with conviction that 100% of the time, if someone goes with solar energy, they're going to get a net benefit. So they're going to get more money in their pocket, or less cost for electricity over the next 20 years and over the next 30 years. Guaranteed. 100% of the time. And that's just because of the federal policy on the investment tax credit, the state policies, in Massachusetts at least. I don't want to say that for every state. So in Massachusetts, I'm focusing on Massachusetts here. So $1,000 state tax credit, 30% federal tax credit, and any additional incentives, and of course the warranties. So actually, I do want to withdraw that statement somewhat, because, for instance, if you go with a company that doesn't have warranty policies on their solar system, and that solar system breaks down, you only have left over the manufacturer's warranty issued on the components. So you have usually a 10-year warranty or 12-year warranty on the inverter, and a separate warranty, a manufacturer's warranty, about 12 years, sometimes longer, and a performance warranty of about 25 years on the solar panels equipment. In the case that those components broke down, I can say with my company, with Tesla and SolarCity, if you're purchasing a system, you're 100% covered except for physical damages. So if there's any performance or production related issue, you're covered for that for a 20-year period, warranty period. But if there is physical damage assessed to the system, then you need homeowners insurance extended to cover that. When you come with any company to a PPA, power purchase agreement, or a lease, they have to 100% cover everything because they're the ones who own the system. So the only way that they're making an investment on your solar system is if it continues to produce solar energy. So obviously it's in their interest for that system to be functioning at its peak. And with that said, I guess the only other trick would be if you suddenly had a tree that started shading the solar system, because it also does say in the agreements that you need to trim any trees that may cause shading. So that's the other kind of thing that could cause it to underproduce. So trees and shading and damage, physical damage, if you don't have it covered by extended homeowners insurance, in the case that you were doing ownership and not a power purchase agreement or a lease. But aside from that, Tesla and SolarCity warranties and covers everything for 20 years, including performance and production. Someone did bring it up, but the reason it's good to have a single string inverter is because that inverter is also covered for 20 years under the warranty of SolarCity and Tesla Energy, and the inverter right now costs about between $3,000 and $5,000, including installation. In the next 20 years, who knows? It could, after 20 years, if your inverter breaks down with the SolarCity/Tesla agreement, maybe because, maybe it'll be a free replacement, to be honest with you, because who knows where the technology will be at that point if it continues to increase. You could also say, what if it's more expensive? But I'm guessing as technology moves forward, the same types of components usually cost cheaper. So if your inverter breaks down after 20 years, and you also, if it breaks down at like year 18, you get a whole new warranty on the new component. So if it breaks down within 20 years, it starts the warranty back from year 0 on the new piece of equipment. So when you actually break down the numbers, you can see how the solar energy companies are actually screwing themselves more than in any light screwing the customer. Like when you're giving a warranty for an inverter for 20 years, that's a pretty, that's honestly almost shaky ground. For things that are manufactured warranty for 10 years. So the company, and again, this is why it's good that Tesla bought SolarCity. It's all encompassing now, and they have this unified vision of creating energy independence, green energy, and a sustainable energy home with the electric car, the Tesla Powerwall, and solar system on your roof. So in the end, when you actually break everything down in the agreement, the solar companies are the ones who are stepping on their own foot more so than anything else. And I'm not saying that in any sympathetic terms. I'm more saying that in a business and practical way, like, shouldn't feel any kind of sympathy for the solar companies, but more so from a logistics standpoint, like, you can see how some of this might be unsustainable in terms of how much they're willing to protect and offer when they're offering services to the customers who in a lot of times don't understand the net value in all of this. So I don't know what could be done to make it seem easier to understand for people, but I think sometimes it comes down to like if you just had more passionate youth or people just out of college, not just salespeople. And I think salespeople have a place in all of this because maybe they have a lot of experience dealing with people in a lot of different situations. But I do think that there needs to be more people brought in who are just simply passionate about what's happening and why this is a good idea. Not just people who are good at transactions or good at, comforting people into making a decision. So I think there needs to be a balance between who's communicating this message as well and the types of people who are brought in the future. You obviously want to preserve people in companies who have experience, but you also want to bring in people who understand why this is a good idea, just aside from the costs as well. I mean, the benefits. Like when I say costs, I mean like the cost benefit structure, like the value, the savings, or just the building a relationship with the customer or rapport or whatever. So, yeah. I do also want to quickly say that I think that Steve Jobs was great at communicating the value in his products, and I think that type of energy is necessary for making the SOAR industry more of like, one SOAR system isn't going to change the planet, but it is kind of like the recycling revolution of a few decades ago, where it's something that builds momentum and something that can really pick up.